Hello everyone and welcome. In this recording I'm going to be speaking about this upcoming new moon in the sign of Leo taking place on the 24th of July 2025. This new moon has a really strong positive side to it, a very potent creational energy, creative energy. There is a strong also to find solutions to problems written on it type of energy. So I find it really, really good. However, sadly, it's not just positive. There's also an intensity to it. There is also perhaps a decision or a turning point or a pivotal moment that is linked to this new moon. So even though it's positive, whatever comes out of it might change. Now, I'm not even sure what the proper wording here is, because I don't necessarily want to say something as dramatic as the landscape of your life, but there is that potential as well, to be totally honest. This energy can be as big or as insignificant as we make it to be. But chances are there is gonna be an impact here. And I'm speaking about more specifically that it opposes, so it stands across the sky with precision, so to the degree precision, from Pluto. When a Pluto opposes any planet, usually it overpowers it. The Plutonic expression overpowers the symbolism of that planet. So, in many cases, it might feel as if Pluto, of course, understand this alchemically, takes the power of the planet away. And in this case, it's actually Sun and Moon, or the conjunction of the Sun and Moon. A very strong in itself creational energy in any context, more so in a strong creational oriented sign of Leo. So Pluto opposing this, well, it can mean a number of different things. It's not all bad, yet it's intense, right? So whatever we create, whatever we decide, whatever we allow ourselves to feel or be part of our lives in feeling, etc., we take full responsibility for it. So there is a certain type of heaviness to this energy where it's not necessarily unconditional. There are terms and conditions, or there are ways to it. Leo usually represents games and play, um, the act of playing and playfulness. So it's not all fun and games this new moon. It has potential. As I said, it can be a very strong energy of change, a pivotal energy, and so it can have a very strong karmic nature to it. Why not? Pluto, after all. However, it also depends on us, and there are consequences. There are implications and involvement of more than meets the eye. Let me give you a really ridiculous but so on point example. Well, Leo rules on one hand sensuality and children. So, making children. After such an episode, I can very imagine that this new moon will bring in the life of the couple the big question, what do we do now? Do we go to the doctor and Pluto, you know? Or do we keep the child? And also Pluto and Aquarius. Keeping the child is a platonic moment because Pluto in the sign of the future, the couple's whole life, and future image, future everything changes from that moment onward. So there you go. But use this symbolism, this analogy in your context. Because where does this 2 degrees and 8 minutes of Leo fall in your sign, in your chart? Because that area of life might see and experience this opposition with Pluto. But also the positive aspects that I'm going to be speaking about in just a moment. But first of all, let's look at the Sabian symbol because I find this so suggestive. The Sabian symbol goes like this: a woman having her hair bobbed. The This is the simplified version of the Sabian symbol. The longer version, which I'm not gonna look up right now, details this that a middle-aged woman with hair like this and that in a semi-transparent gown. So it depicts fashion, it depicts someone's self-expression, and a message, a statement that the woman says through her clothing and through her image, through her appearance. Now, Leo is all about this. On one hand, Leo rules hairdos, and usually when someone undergoes strong cosmetic transformation, uh, something is in Leo. It doesn't really matter what, but something goes on in Leo. I'm not just referring in their fifth house in that sense. It can be deeply personally just their fifth house, right? But usually, generally, in the sign of Leo, something is going on. And this new moon can exactly be that for some people. A strong cosmetic change, may it be a makeover, a massive wardrobe change, anything that changes cosmetics. However, if this is the case, we must be aware that this new moon takes place under Mercury retrograde. So please, with any decision, wait until the 11th of August or after. Actually, the end of August altogether if you can, because these decisions are much, much better taken when Mercury retrograde ends, which coincidentally is in the sign of Leo. So, even though it's not conjunct, the theme of Mercury retrograde is gonna be very much interlinked with this new moon energy, either directly or indirectly. So big cosmetic changes and decisions about this can be very much part of the picture. And very many times for, and this ties in with other aspects, healing reasons, a like a statement. Sometimes when a person states to the universe itself, I am recovered sufficiently, and as that statement, they upgrade their wardrobe or they go and change their hairdo. They transform their physical image, their self-expression, Leo, quite significantly. This is many times a very commonly used example. But if this is the case, wait until Mercury goes direct because you will know better. You will feel the situation more on point. And on the other hand, at the time of this new moon, Mars squares Mercury quite precisely. So let's not regret the changes that we make, because Gemini is Venus in Gemini is a sign of decisions, and many times those decisions can be influenced by other people. Gemini, we may love that other person because Gemini siblings, cousins, best friends, people who we consider brothers, sisters, neighbors. So important people. We may the love might be there, but their aesthetic sense might be so very different from ours. So this energy might say, just because you love this person, don't necessarily trust their expertise or opinion, because they're just a human being like any of us. They can get it wrong, or just because they love you doesn't mean they actually know your taste all that well, right? So, long story short, it's better to be cautious and to wait. And on the other hand, Leo rules risk. Mercury in Leo wants to evaluate risk, and it's Mercury retrograde. Something might be too good to be true, but it has a deadline, or you need to make a quick decision. This is where the opposing Pluto. Rather than make a hasty decision where, like Pluto, we can't ignore that any decision will have some repercussions. Trine Saturn. I mean, the new moon trine Saturn. Legally binding or long term, or Saturn solid. You sign the deal, or the repercussion. Well, it's a trine, the positive, without a shadow of a doubt. It has a positive side to it, because otherwise you wouldn't even consider it the risk, right, Leo? Loving it, it appeals to you, trine. But Saturn's conjunct Neptune, illusion, it's not what it seems. So saying yes has repercussions. That's why, if you're unsure of what you feel, Leo, and what's in your heart of hearts, it might need contemplation, Mercury retrograde in Leo. Or you're unsure, rather allow the opportunity to pass, then grab it. And then, I don't necessarily want to say regret, but have to, well, face the consequences or the bargain which you didn't sign up for, Saturn, Neptune. And this can be romantic. Why not? So let it pass rather than feel pressure to give an answer when you're not sure of yourself. In any sense, contracts, romance. Do you want to be my boyfriend, girlfriend? I don't know. I need to wait until 11th, or actually the very end of August. That's the wisest answer if possible. And if the boy or girl says, "Nah, I want the answer now because I can't, I don't know, wait for your this is sorry," then that's it. Then you don't really want me all that much if you can't wait, right? Saturn, try Saturn. And even if you let it pass, you can be assured that is the right decision, and that new moon trine will reward you. Another way, and Pluto is fated. So what you lose, what passes, actually invites the better, stronger, realer, more suited to your needs version to come back, maybe exactly at that end of the retrograde, Mercury retrograde, or when Mercury covers new ground totally. Or maybe, well, a new moon is not instant energy. It's over the course maximum 6 months. The fire trine, which can also be seen as a grand fire trine, which I'm gonna get to in a minute. Well, it kind of suggests that it's gonna be pretty quick. It's not, sorry. And Uranus also suggests that it can be pretty quick. However, that's what I mean. Karmically speaking, whatever we may miss out on or may say no to because we are not sure of ourselves will return. Don't you worry. There is a lot of time. And many times, Saturn trine, that's how it plays out. Delayed gratification. Or when you make a choice out of sheer wisdom, many times you don't harvest the result of the wisdom there and then. Many times, I don't know, after a month, 6 months, or you know what I mean. So there is that side. But sorry, going back to the Sabian symbol, self-expression. Very, very self-express. This is where we started. That for very many people, it's exactly this changing style, changing aesthetics, changing hairdo, changing something about their self-expression which says something, which has a statement. I am healed. Or, quite the contrary, I am wounded. I am not available. I am available. Anything. So the Sabian symbol can also represent that self-expression is much more than just, a statement. It can tell the person's story, if you know what I mean. Because there is the social norm, there is the standard, there is the fashion industry, the progressive, and there is, your own unique style. And then the person's self-expression, by correlating what for example, what you see the person's self-expression through their clothing or hair or whatever, how it does it correlate to the social norm, but how does that correlate to the fashion industry, the fashion, progressive fashion? Yet again, how does that correlate to your own sense of fashion or aesthetics or whatever, sense of dignity, decency, etc., etc. And that already is like a GPS, because you can determine things about not just the person, but what type of relation can be between you and that person. That's so much Mercury retrograde. That's so much wisdom. And that wisdom can give birth to the best decisions in life. And taking or not a risk. Leo, the sign of risk. Loving, passion, saying yes or no. Not necessarily to your future fiance, but even when before anything starts, because we cannot ignore that this is very early degree, close to that 0 degree, which is the sign of the beginning. So this is beginning energy. Two in numerology many times represents pairs. So, and two in astrology, an opposition, a confrontation of two truth or energies or to something in whatever that may be, communication, emotion, attraction or not. So, and Pluto, well, this is where Pluto can be the temptation principle, right? uh do I go into this affair or do I stay loyal? Do I say yes to my hormones and body, or do I rather say yes to my morality? Especially if someone is in a committed relationship. How do they feel about certain, maybe unasked for opportunities in life? Temptations, power games. Well, Pluto many times is money. But Pluto is power, generally speaking. So a power decision in life, quitting the job and going not necessarily to another company, maybe another totally different career altogether. Big power moments in life, which can either lead to highs or the necessary breakdown before the breakthrough. So this is why not just the specifics of this new moon, but also Mercury retrograde in the same sign does suggest that whatever this new moon wants to dish out to on the table has to be considered or needs to be done from a place of knowing one's heart, really, I think. Place of knowledge. And that knowledge, many times, as I said earlier, is more of heart-based knowledge. How do I feel about? Because let me give you the most common example. The well-paying job, it looks so good on paper, yet a person, even if they have the skill and even if they could secure it, they just know that they wouldn't be happy there. Why even try? Why have to go through the experience when you just know, and that knowing does not disappoint ever, either in a positive or negative way? Because oppositely, the same can be true, like the money's not all that good, you would still struggle, but something in that place just tells you that you're gonna have such a good time. You're really gonna be either part of the team or someone special works there, or I don't know. Or you simply love it. Maybe it's not, it's your biggest hobby, and you say, well, even if it pays not all that great, the love is enough for me. So, knowledge, and especially knowing the heart, really, really helps. Now, we understand Pluto and the opposition, both in a positive and in a negative way, both in a way where if we are unsure or if we don't want to accept the consequences that come with the benefit, we say no and we trust that it's the right decision. We don't feel regret. And life is going to reward us for the right decision, karmically or in other way. With, like, let me give you an example. You find a wallet full of money on the, I don't know, in the bushes or wherever, with ID and everything, and you either choose to return it or return it through the police. And apparently, spiritual reward only. And in 2 days, the owner comes and seeks you out to reward you with something, and you make a new friend. Fated. So you see, sometimes Pluto, the loss or not doing it, you miss out on the opportunity. It's gone. Pluto. It's a transformation ultimately. Or you declined the transformation. Many times that can be the best possible choice, and it can be rewarding, not just in a spiritual and moral way. Other times, knowing thyself. I'm not gonna use the wallet example here. Where not returning the wallet would be the best choice, because no, let's get to a totally different example. Um, Romance. You know that the person is trouble. You know that the person has issues. But maybe you're so confident of yourself, of your patience, and maybe you've worked with people, you can fix him, her, that you say yes, and you know what you're doing. You say, yeah, I can take this. I see the soul of the person despite whatever trouble they may represent. I can fix it and I can make something with it. Yep, I can see my future with this person. So, in any way, shape, and form, Pluto, the loss of it, or accepting the consequences of it, can be a very good thing. Now, let's get to the trine. I want to make it a grand trine here because so the new moon trines the Saturn and Neptune conjunction in Aries. Neptune at 2 degrees, so very tight trines, and Saturn at 1 degree and let me just check. 49 minutes, so almost 2 degrees Saturn to a very tight trine. And a trine is, supreme harmony, it's flow, it's permissive. Exactly why I want to interpret this energy as a choice, as something that we could do, and there are benefits to it, Saturn. Or something we create, something passion based, something hobby based, something sensual, sexual based. Why not? Something coming from children, our children, because Leo, a surprise, sometimes challenge. Their homework is a project that is almost impossible to do for a child. So, guess who has to step in? When I was a child, we had this so many times where our parents said, how do they even expect kids to be able to put this together or whatever? So everyone's homework was their mom and dad doing it for them. And it was like a bit futile because there it was, but how were you graded? Because it was your mom and dad who were graded, really, not you. And this was without exception. Everyone in the class had their parents do it. Like literally, 100% everyone. Anyway, sorry for this. So it could be a situation like that. Where what do you do? Complain to the school that, look, how come you give children something so impossible to complete? Or you shut up and do it yourself. Either way, it's strong, creative, or confrontational energy. It comes from the heart. Um, However, more collectively speaking, Leo is, kings, rulers, sovereignty, VIPs. Something is gonna be out there. Definitely. Because Pluto in Aquarius, people opposing Sun and Moon and Leo, leadership, or the Sun extra at home in Leo, right? Extra comfortable, but at home really. So literally someone important. Pluto, well, stage out, thrown off the stage because of El Pluto, dark secret or corruption or sexual scandal, or I'm not gonna say the name, but insert here a very rich American person who passed away files. So that's definitely on fire trine. So speaking about the trine, the third element of the trine is Black Moon Lilith, the true Lilith. So in Sagittarius, at 1 degree of Sagittarius. So you see, it's international because Sagittarius. It can also be, well, legal Sagittarius, but we are looking at uh, just the Sagittarian part of the energy. So a trine is positive, So I would imagine there is a legal solution, finally, the retrogrades, to something that was pending, even though the legal solution is something Lilith, unconventional or uh outdated, however, as an exception it's used, or something like that, something unusual. But it's not just Black Moon Lilith there. Let me just 1 second look at my notes. There is an asteroid at 2 degrees of Sagittarius, and now this is what I find so very interesting, not important, interesting. This asteroid is named Hidalgo. I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly. And it's actually a very important historic figure in the history of Mexico. It did something for the independence of Mexico. So this person, this historic figure. So you see, the asteroid is directly linked to, well, in Mexico, really, isn't it? Because the liberation or freedom of Mexico, a relevant figure in it, well, that means he represented the Mexican spirits of Mexico. Something might happen there. Well, ultimately, it has to be positive, I would imagine. With Pluto, maybe the head of some criminal organization falls. Or they invent something. Sagittarius, it can be very inventive, technology. And Uranus is also part of this. So technology again, an invention or something heroic, new moon in Leo, courage. So something positive, something inspirational, something nice, let's say. But um, the new moon also takes place on a fixed star named Talita. I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly. This is a neutral fixed star of nature of Mars or Saturn. So it's very, very, quiet, cautious, precautious, prudent, mistrusting. So exactly as the energies are in the present moment, especially internationally speaking. Total mistrust. And when provoked, big anger. That's the dark side of Leo. That's the dark side of the sun. That's the dark side of the sun in Leo. So, you know, immediately don't Mercury retrograde say, Mars square Venus do, Venus in Gemini send some opinion on social media that is very, very misinterpretative or dodgy or doesn't truly characterize you, because, well, it can cause a long term new moon, right? New cycle, karmic cycle, conflict, misunderstanding. And there's gonna be repercussions. Saturn, I know it's a trine, but many times the trine says nothing to stop it. And Saturn in Aries is self-righteous very strongly. And Neptune illusion, let an illusion not be the bane of your life, a misunderstanding. So this energy asks us to be quite cautious. Um, Let me just speak a little. Oh, yeah. As you see, both Saturn and Neptune and the new moon hold sextiles with Uranus. So this already is like a grand sextile or a minor grand trine, this is such a very powerful energy. And if you look at this, Pluto holds the same grand, not the same, similar grand sextile and trining Uranus. So this is a very, very potent creational energy. I'm not even sure how they call this aspect in astrology. The Star of David or something like some star. Anyway, it's a mystical aspect. Let's not, dive into the nitty-gritty details because I'm not that good of an astrologer, but it's a mystical aspect, which means that the more power of faith and of everything, intelligence, emotional strength, anything, magnetism, the heart, passion, the more power you place into it, the stronger it gets. But because these planets connect, these aspects connect so many planets and so very many areas of the sky, it's very multidimensional. So it's really a strong breakthrough energy. The potential is huge, huge, huge. And with any new moon, we are responsible. The seed of intention is in our hands, more so than ever in Leo. And under this energy, this is even literal because babies are gonna be born under this new moon. Because Leo, as I said, sensuality, children, etc., etc. So there is a strong activation of sensuality at that moment of the new moon. That's why Pluto can be the temptation energy, right? But other than that, it's these sextiles that link the whole sky together, basically. They're so very powerful. Uranus at that 0 degrees of Gemini, conjunct Sedna, and conjunct asteroid Psyche. Exactly. I don't need to interpret Psyche because Psyche is Psyche. So mind over matter. But when I say mind, not just the typical Gemini mind, the the chatter of the mind. Gemini, Uranus is in Gemini, so the planet of higher thinking, of awakening, of expanded consciousness in Gemini. So we need to, that's the brainstorming, the higher brainstorming that we really need to put on the table. Use our highest intelligence. And also, new moon. This is how we step into the higher ego, the type of ego which serves not just the self and the true higher purpose of the self, but also the cosmos and every is in harmony with everything. So the birth of that, but that requires sacrifice, right? That requires the lower ego, the bull, to be put on the altar, as they say in mysticism, in her anyway. So but that's also the Mars and Neptune square. Choices, decisions, but we need to get it right. Because Mars in Virgo is to do and Virgo practical. This is the solution. This is what gets from A to B or C or whichever. But Venus in Gemini, is it worth the effort? Is it logical? Is it rational? Does it make sense? Because it needs to tick all those boxes as well. And that is the square, careful evaluation. And who to trust. Remember the mistrust of that fixed star, mistrust quality of the fixed star. Well, one way this energy can play out, you sense something very strongly, gut feeling, or your heart just knows, and it goes against the norm, the collective norm, Pluto in Aquarius. what is out there, regardless of what this is, an opinion or to do something, or it goes against the norm. And you choose the collective because you're just one, they are many, they know better, right? And maybe life teaches you that no, the gut or whatever you based your feeling in, that knows better. So again, the symbolism of the new moon. You may regret that you followed the internet's opinion or people's opinion or the social norm. However, you learned a very, very powerful lesson, Saturn and Neptune in Aries, about the self, to be able to trust the self that much more. So ultimately, it came to be a much more positive experience than at first glance. And second time, when you will be faced with the same choice or whatever, you will know better because you will trust yourself. And basically, this is the big picture of the energy. Now, another thing that I need to mention is that this new moon also trines at that first degrees, 2 degrees of Aries. A dwarf planet called Borasisi Pabu, actually, it's a binary, and it kind of symbolizes paternal father abandonment wound, or wounding caused by parents, especially the rejection of the father. So, because it's a trine, this is a healing energy. Or because you were abandoned. And when I say father, put this into context. Teacher who were meant to train you, teach you, look after you in any way, shape, and form. So, being abandoned or not helped, or, whatever version of this taught you some skills. It made your skin thicker, your muscles stronger, more, it gave you some superpower. And that is what you need to start using. So, this is also part of this new moon, where embrace your superpower. Don't be ashamed of it. And somehow it can heal paternal abandonment wound because Saturn is also the father, Borasisi, the epitome of the wound, and Neptune healing, compassion, love. And of course, in other ways of looking at this energy, some people get healed by becoming dads. So, again, having kids type of energy attached to this new moon. But all that is really, really positive. So we really don't need to give any wisdom or guidance to that. Um, Thank you so much for listening. And again, I need to say this is a very strong alchemical energy where it's definitely in our hands. What we make of it is what we're gonna get. But the disher out is the heart. So it's very much heart based. When I say heart, the mind Mercury retrograde in the same sign also is in unison. So this energy works best if used in full understanding of the self and feelings, and then directed towards what we need life to be, or things to go, or a decision, or a risk that we take, but that can change our life significantly. So thank you so much again, and I really hope this helped. Until next time, bye for now.